And welcome. This is part 2 of creating end credits in Premiere Pro. Alright, so last time we did the names, credits, information pasted from Notepad, and we brought it here into Premiere or Premiere. I just like the way the British guys say it, Premiere Pro. Alright, so so here we got it in, and we got it to start off screen, which if you missed that, you can check it out over here somewhere. And all right, so we got it to start off screen and end off screen. So now what we want to do is, because this is pretty simple, and you could actually just leave it this way and it would be, you know, an impressive end credits. Who really watches those? But it would be it would be perfectly acceptable. But at this point, we're looking at taking it to the next level, because if you can make it even better, why not? So what I did do, if you remember from last time, is we have the setup here, and then I'm going to pull this down so we can watch it smoothly. Okay, you can see the credits have come up here, and here we have contact information. It could be anything. You could have a logo there, so this technically could be over there. And then when you press play, you have the credits pushing it up in there, going underneath, and disappearing, not much of anything. And as you can see, I have several layers here, so if I were to shut this one off, then you would see okay, so how do we do that? Well, there are a couple different ways of doing it, and one of those ways will be to take something like this from the new credits folder, which is why I created these, was to be more clear. Okay, we're going to take this. This is my channel ID, which you are probably familiar with. We will take that and we will put it on top. There, now you can actually see it. Now, of course, that's too big, so let's go ahead and resize it. Let's bring it down to about there. Go ahead and reset the credits. I think I want this in the middle. That looks about right. Okay. Now, let's bring the credits back online. And there we have them disappearing. Now the problem is they're showing up again at the top. So there are two ways we could deal with this. Number one, we could keep it right there in the middle, and we could put some kind of shape up here to make it just disappear underneath that shape. Or we can have them do like the other way. We could have them push the logo up. So we're going to go for that. We're going to try to make it push up. And the way you do that is just through some very basic animation. Okay, so I'm going to start it. Let's see, where does it start to disappear? It starts to disappear right there. I'm going to move it right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to, of course, select the clip, and then we come over here, make sure you're in the effects controls panel, not the source monitor. Okay, select the clip, and now I'm going to animate the position. You already saw me adjust the scale. So let's go to position. You click the stopwatch. Okay, so now it has just marked these numbers as a starting position. And we want it to move up to maybe about here. So let's scrub forward. Okay. And actually, let me make it disappear so I can choose where the words will be when it, let's say about there, all right? Okay, so now we're going to take this position, because this is the up and down, this is left and right, so we're going to move it up to right there. And then we should see that it will, the credits will appear to push it up, and then they'll slide underneath and disappear. Okay, now it's nice. And it should work. Oh, we have a problem. You can still see the edge of the words coming out there, can't you? Okay. So what we could do, in fact, we will do it. Let's turn on another layer here, so you can kind of see what we've got going on here. This is a rectangle, but it's kind of unevenly distributed. The logo here is all the way to the left, and that's fine up until we get to this point where you're probably having trouble seeing that. Let me blur it out. Camera blur. Okay. Oh, that's a bit much. Let's try okay. So now you can see what's going on. You can see that the text is wider, and it's still kind of passing. There we go. Because that's really bright. It was competing. Okay. So a way that we can fix that is by applying a mask. Now I'm just gonna putting another shape up there. In this case, I'm using the black video. I'll show you how I did that. Let me go ahead and delete that, and let's do it again. So we'll grab the black video, and we will put it here. And now you see I've turned everything black again, but there is a way to cover, just because all we want to cover is that area where it's peeking out there, right? Okay, so we'll come over here, we'll select it, and we'll go to opacity, and we'll choose the mask. Now what that does is reveals only part of the object. Now in this case we can just go like that, and then as you can see, oh, it was a little bit lazy there. I need to make that mask bigger, don't I? Because it needs to cover everything up to the top. So also you have to make sure it's underneath. As you can see, it's underneath the other layer, because if it's not, well, obviously we'll cover up the logo. So now that's kind of an odd shape, but because everything is under here, okay, I want to move this mask a little bit. Okay, because it's interfering with that edge here. Now, if you notice, the edge is a little bit softer than it's a little bit softer than the hard edge, but if you're on a black background, let's go ahead and make that disappear. It shouldn't be too noticeable. All right, we have it tucking under nicely, and there. Okay. So that is how you get the credits to push a logo up and then disappear under it. This is on a black screen. But let's say that you wanted to use something that wasn't a solid, like this, and you wanted to use a, let's say a PNG, which you can see right through the background. So we're going to drop that on there. And let's see, I've already animated this one, I think, so yeah, and it kind of races, and there you can see it goes under. Now what we could do is we could just say, well, let's put this on the black background, and we'll take the video, black video, and we'll create another opacity mask. Whoops, select the right one here. We'll create another opacity mask, and let's see, we'll put it under here. And here it kind of doesn't matter what shape because you're on a black background, so as long as the text doesn't peek out from behind the edges, it should be good. Okay, so we can do something like that, and we can say, all right. And there it works. But let's say you wanted to do this on a color background for some odd reason. You were very ambitious and you decided that you want to do this on a color background. So now we have a problem because that black square is very obvious. Or it's not a square, it's what looks like it's wanting to be a parallelogram. You can see it disappears, but it's too obvious. So we'll take that and put that away. So now we need to make the text disappear here and not be so obvious. So how can we do that? Well, we can come over here. I'm going to put the opacity back to 100. And we can say, okay, we want it to go underneath here. So we can copy this, and I'm going to bring it over here. I'm just going to paste it, and then we can bring it here. Okay, so now you have two copies of the same layer. Why am I seeing through the other one? Oh, because the opacity is animated. Let's not do that. Let's come over here and unanimate the opacity. Okay, so now you shouldn't see any credits. All right, but that's not what we want. We want to see the credits. We don't just want to see that thing move. Let me put in its full quality. Okay. Okay. Okay, so we want to see those credits. I'm playing with some different settings here. Okay, we want to see those credits, so we're going to go ahead and we're going to do a mask on the top layer, and then we're going to put it, let's make sure this has stopped moving first. Okay, so it stopped moving, and because this is not there are no keyframes on it, it doesn't matter where in the sequence of things that you adjust this, just so long as it matches up. So let's pick a nice distance from there, let's say right there. And because they're identical pictures, thankfully the mask was just the right size, because this is a huge picture. But if you did need to resize, you already saw how we do that. So now you have a clear image, a PNG, and it will work just like so. All right, so that's another way you can get it to do that. Now another really quick thing, because these names are a little bit hard to read, so we can come in here, especially on such a bright background. So we can come in here and we can say we want to make these a little bit easier to read. So we can come over here, and one thing you can do is change the font. For one thing, I like to use this one because it's a little bit easier to read, but that will mess with the settings for our mask. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take, this is a nice trick I learned, I'm going to add a shadow. So let's go ahead and add a shadow. Some nice text effects here. Okay, and that's one thing you can do. Also, and I want to change the color of the shadow to white, actually, because I don't want it to be too obvious. Angle distance is 10. I'm going to bring that distance down to about there. Angle I want, let's try 90 degrees, shall we? Come on. 90. Okay, so you could do that. Here's another thing I like to do. So you take the names, you make them you can make them bold. Right? And that adds a little bit of legibility. I think I'll go ahead and turn the shadow back on, and we'll put it back to 50. Okay. And come over here. I'll do the same. Now there are different ways. This is just what I happen to do for this background, and it can work if... Okay, let's make the studios Weird Imagination Studios. Let's make that bold as well. Okay. So, okay, I want the shadow on the whole thing, though. Just put a shadow on the whole thing. Nope. Okay. So this should be a little bit easier to, okay. Let's put the distance at 4.5. Okay, because I like it to be very subtle. So now, you can see that these changes have been saved, and it's looking a little clunky, but that's general idea. Another thing you could do is outline. So let's try outer strokes instead. Let's add outer strokes, and that's a really simple way of doing it. It just adds a little edge to it. It's very it has contrast. That's the word I'm looking for. So these are just a few ways, and you can continue to play around with it and see what works for you. This just happens to be what works for me, what I found to be helpful. And that's it. That's basically how you do some end credits with a little bit of style. Alright, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.